back again, here to explain why Nigel Farage is wrong about another thing. See, a lot of people look up to Nigel Farage and they think that the man is full of wisdom about how the EU works. They have confidence in him. Unfortunately, he's been wrong so many times. I mean, even the Bulgarian and Romanian scaremongering, you know, it never materialised. So why do people still believe in him? Now, he recently had a LBC interview with Femi, and he was talking about habeas corpus. So let's see if Nigel Farage was telling the truth. So what is habeas corpus? Habeas corpus is a writ requiring a person under arrest to be brought before a judge or into court, especially to secure the person's release unless lawful grounds are shown for their detention. Europe was the first to introduce habeas corpus.
EU law. You specialise in EU law. Again, youth movements always strike me as being about freedom. We live under common law in this country, as does Ireland. The rest of Europe lives, of course, under a very different legal code, where they haven't even got the basic protections of habeas corpus. Several parts of Europe where you can be left in prison for 6 months, 9 months, a year, without a charge even being brought. I mean, I would presume that you would rather we kept our common law system than move deeper into a European Union.
The depressing thing is the rubbish you see in the newspapers about Europe and the European Union. Euromyths, stories that are gross distortions of the truth or even wholly false. Some Euromyths are about justice. A favourite one is about criminal justice, that the European countries have something terrible called the inquisitorial system, invented by the Pope and Napoleon, under which everyone is presumed guilty instead of innocent, courts are controlled by public prosecutors, and public prosecutors can have you arrested at any time and held in prison indefinitely without trial. And if we don't leave Europe, Brussels is going to make us have that system here. Nigel Farage, the leader of the UK Independence Party, regurgitated this one in a piece in The Independent just before Remembrance Day. It provoked a lot of online comment. One of them, from an approving reader, said, "Point out what Farage has written that's wrong. You can't, can you?" Well, as a Cambridge law professor who's worked on European criminal justice for the last 20 years and written books about it, I think I can. Innocent until proven guilty, not under the EU's justice system. Corpus juris, used in Europe, is not a system of justice we should be welcoming. The corpus juris he refers to isn't used in Europe. It isn't used anywhere. It's a proposal written by a group of academics for a scheme to combat fraud on European community finances, which was published back in 1997. What was proposed was a standard list of fraud offences to be applicable in all member states, a standard list of powers for investigating them, and a European public prosecutor, a bit like our serious fraud office, with authority throughout Europe to investigate and prosecute. The Corpus Juris proposal was demonised as a Brussels plot to force us to have the inquisitorial system by the Daily Telegraph in an issue in 1999. And this view of the matter was then internalised by Eurosceptics. I'm afraid the journalist who wrote it had never looked at the Corpus Juris project, and he got his take on it from a travesty of it that had appeared in a small circulation Eurosceptic magazine. Unlike the journalist and Nigel Farage, I do know what is in it. It claims nothing about suspects being presumed guilty, as in continental Europe. I know this because I was part of the team of academics that helped write it. And we might like to look at Article 31, which says, "Any person accused of one of the offences set out above is presumed innocent until his guilt has been established legally by a final judgment which has acquired the authority of res judicata." Secondly, Farage is wrong to imagine that in criminal justice systems in continental Europe, the presumption of innocence, which is so highly valued, quite rightly in the UK, is reversed so that everybody is presumed guilty. Here's the preliminary article to the French Code de procédure pénale. Toute personne suspectée ou poursuivie est présumée innocente tant que sa culpabilité n'est pas établie. And here is an article of the Italian Constitution. L'imputato non è considerato colpevole sino alla condanna definitiva. Actually, in Italy, they take that very seriously indeed, to the point of saying that jail sentences can't be carried out against people until all their last rights of appeal have been finished. And that is the reason why Mr. Berlusconi is still at liberty in Italy now, even though a 4-year jail sentence has been theoretically imposed upon him. And the presumption of innocence is enshrined throughout Europe by the European Convention on Human Rights, another hate object to Eurosceptics, Article 6.2 of which says, everyone charged with a criminal offence shall be presumed innocent until proved guilty according to law. The third point I'd like to take up is where Farage says that the criminal justice systems in Europe were invented by the Holy Inquisition in Rome, and that the system of combining the prosecutor and judge is something which formed the basis of the legal system in Europe, and he says they are no longer the same person, but are instead salaried civil servants working cheek by jowl. This is completely wrong. Judges in continental Europe aren't civil servants dependent on the government. They're independent, both of public prosecutors and the government, like they are in the UK. And they have to be so because Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights again requires this, and Strasbourg would condemn the countries concerned if they were not. In some countries, judges and public prosecutors train together and can even move from one job to the other in the course of their career. But while they're judges and they act independently. France, it's true, has a figure called the juge d'instruction, an investigating judge who in serious cases will take charge of the investigation. But the juge d'instruction doesn't take part in the final decision on guilt or innocence, which is made by an independent court, and the juge d'instruction doesn't take orders from the public prosecutor. Actually, juges d'instruction, thanks to their independence, have an honourable history of sorting out corrupt politicians, which is why some dodgy politicians would be very keen to abolish them.